Hello and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. What's up, Izzy? Welcome to the show, brother. Welcome into the show. Welcome into Prime Sports World, and a happy hump day from everybody here at Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Humping, joined by my co-host and CEO of Prime Sports World, Mr. Izzy Rivera. Welcome to the show, brother. If you like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast as we're getting into the nitty-gritty when it comes to fantasy football, coming into those playoffs, coming into those championship rounds. And a shout-out to myself as I knocked off the two-time champion in that Krusty Krab League. Knocked off AJ to move into the Final Four. I believe you're in the Final Four too, still, right? In that league?
I am not in the Final Four. I got waxed.
Ooh,
I got waxed. Jahmyr Gibbs laid he had great time to have one of his worst performances all season.
Yeah, right.
Against the Rams. You know what I mean? It was a freaking gun show. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs would turn it on the second half, but yeah, no, my team didn't make it in that league, but my team did make it. So in another fantasy league into the semifinals. So I'm still alive and well in the playoffs.
I got one league left. I got bounced in the playoffs last week in this league. I'm in a 16-man league. Yeah, I got bounced out of that league. This guy put up 300 points against me. I was just cooked. And then in the greatest people, I lost to Ed. So I officially got eliminated from the playoffs in that league. Shout out to Shiv, John Drulis, David Drulis, Ed, Brian Graybo, and then Serrata as they made the playoffs in that league, the 6 teams that are remaining. We got 3 weeks left in that league as we head into the playoffs. But yeah, if you have any lineup questions, anything like that as we go through the show, please don't drop them down in the comment section. We will answer them as the show goes on. Thank you all very much for all your fan participation this season. Let's first talk about the unfortunate part of football. Let's talk about some injuries. Got a lot of injuries we got to get to. We'll try to burn through them real quick. First, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Being real honest with you, if Patrick Mahomes was on your fantasy team, probably not playing fantasy football still right now, but he's done for the season, impacting next season, also impacting a bunch of players on their offense. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce. I'm probably going to see an uptick on Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. But if you're looking to replace him, if you are still playing, Gardner Minshew is the immediate starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. But we've seen Gardner Minshew play football in the past, and we saw him play a little bit against the Chargers and throw a terrible interception. So, I'd be very cautious about Gardner Minshew. If you're looking for some better options, I think Kirk Cousins is a really nice matchup this weekend. Playing him in that same game, Jacoby Brissett, J.J. McCarthy, who's shown me some things over the last couple weeks, and then Trevor Lawrence, if he's still available, has been on a heater the last 3 weeks or so. So Trevor Lawrence is somebody that you could potentially start if he's even available. I doubt it, but over into the Jacksonville Jaguars running game, Basil Tootin, week to week, dealing with an injury there. Expected to probably be back. It's a hand injury. It's going to require surgery. I imagine it's very similar to the Justin Herbert situation. But the running back, you need both those hands to hold the football. So you can't just put a glove on and be good to go. They're expecting him back for the playoffs. It doesn't help you in the in fantasy. Laquan Allen is their backup on top of Travis Etienne. Uptick in production for him. But Laquan Allen, I don't know anything about him. I'm just being straight up honest with you. I just know he's the backup there. And then Devin Neal, not going to play next week, was good for the New Orleans Saints in the games that he's been playing. He's week to week right now. Somebody to keep an eye on the status is Alvin Kamara, who could return from that MCL injury. Was on the IR.
Why?
Can return if you need Alvin Kamara. He could return. Is he?
Why?
And then
No, I'm acting like I'm that's some shit like I'm kind of getting my inner TJ going because he would say the same thing. Why?
Yeah.
Why would Alvin Kamara come back when their season is over with?
Because NFL contracts aren't fully guaranteed. He's going to need to get that money.
Well, no, I'm not questioning you, David. I'm not questioning you. You're just doing your job. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if Alvin Kamara comes back, I'm like, why? Like, for what? If you bail your knee out, you're risking future earnings with the other team.
I agree with you on that, but I just had to put him on there Audric Estime also is the immediate starting running back there for the New Orleans Saints, but
that's
to be real with you. Don't touch anyone in that running backfield. Devin Neal hasn't been that good anyways. Bam Knight.
Just put Taysom Hill back there.
Bam Knight expected to miss a bunch of weeks. Michael Carter is the guy that I would pick up if he's available in your league. Devontae Adams, hamstring injury, probably won't play on Thursday. You're looking at Tutu Atwell, Colby Parkinson,
I don't
Xavier
think they need
Smith.
him.
Yes, they do. They for sure need him.
No, I don't think they need him. I don't think they need him against the Seahawks.
And then a frustrating situation there in Chicago. Roma Dunze was ruled out in like the last possible second there in Chicago against the Cleveland Browns. He's probably not going to play this weekend against Green Bay Packers. Neither is Luther Burden III. And we've seen what those two guys without those two guys. DJ Moore gets an uptick in production. Olamide Zaccheaus should be a more focal point in the passing attack for the Chicago Bears. Also, those tight ends get a big-time boost in production there for the Chicago Bears. And then Christian Watson, the Packers are downplaying his injury, saying it's probably just a week-to-week thing, but he may not play against the Chicago Bears. I'm going to be real with you. I wouldn't touch anybody on the Green Bay Packers passing. They just don't pass the ball enough to any of these guys to warrant. It's a dice roll. You never know who's going to be the guy. Only guy I would say that's gonna get some more tick because he's like healthier is Jaden Reed. That's the only guy I would kind of put some eggs in the basket in. Yeah. In terms of like the wide receiver room, you are right, David. There's not one number one wide receiver where it's like, oh, he's going to get 12 targets. It's too much of a crap.
Jordan Love, Jordan Love spreads it out everywhere. So it's like you never know what's going to happen with it.
And Josh Jacobs has become more of a focal point in the passing attack as well. I mean, they're using the tight ends. I just don't trust any of those wide receivers. Now Christian Watson potentially won't play on Sunday. I would just avoid that Packers passing attack. Outside of Jordan Love, I think he still has good value. But
absolutely.
I just don't know which of these guys you can trust. And I think you're absolutely just throwing a dart. If you're Christian Watson was the only guy I thought had legitimate value, and now he's hurt. So just something to keep in mind for week number 16. Let's talk about some rankings. Let's start with the quarterback position. Let's start number one. Me and you, number one, and number two, same guy. I got Jalen Hurts and Drake May, 1 and 2. Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to want to do some hurting against the Washington Commanders as they have to win that game in order to lock up a playoff spot. They only have to win one of their next 3 games in order to lock up a playoff spot. I think they'll do it this Sunday. Drake May started off on a heater there, had 2 rushing touchdowns, and then kind of cooled off in the second half. He's going up against the Baltimore Ravens defense that has given up major yardage in the passing game. So Drake May, I think, has a good value there. Jacoby Brissett, it might be too high on Jacoby Brissett, but I think that Falcons-Cardinals game is going to be an absolute shootout with Michael Wilson also benefiting from that game and Trey McBride, obviously. I think Jacoby Brissett's going to throw the football 50-plus times in that game. And if he does that, he's going to have crazy fantasy value. We saw, he set the record for completions in a game earlier this season. Jacoby Brissett ain't afraid to gunsling it, apparently. I might be way too high on Jacoby Brissett, but that's just a feling I have. I think, especially with the injuries in the backfield, I mean, James Conner, Trey Benson, and now we have what's his name? Bam Knight is also going to miss this game. They're going to throw the football a ton. Number 3, Jacoby Brissett. 4,
I had him ranked the same as I got Baker Mayfield at 13th. I just put Baker there. He's like my 13th cornerback for rankings.
I'm hot. I think I'm sipping the Jacoby Brissett Kool-Aid. 4, Josh Allen, and a game that I think is going to be a shootout between those two teams. Neither of their defenses are all that good. Neither of their offense should have a good day. 4 and 5, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, respectively. I think they should have good games there. Josh Allen looking to potentially get back into the MVP hunt a little bit there. 6, Justin Herbert. I think it's a solid matchup for Justin Herbert. I think he's going to play well. Against the Cowboys, but I think that hand is still bothering him. It might be a little bit too high on Justin Herbert to have him here, but I think he's going to have a decent game. 7, Lamar Jackson. I hate when I misspell stuff. Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. A little bit lower than consensus on Lamar. You don't even have him in your top 10, so that's interesting. CJ Stroud at number 8, 9, Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions. They try to bounce back after losing to the Los Angeles Rams last weekend. 10, Brock Purdy going up against the Steelers. And then my outside looking in, I got Jackson Dart, assuming he plays. I can't imagine a scenario where he doesn't play, going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Tyler Shook, who quietly has had a pretty solid fantasy output the last couple of weeks with the rushing touchdowns. The passing yards aren't really where you want them to be. The passing production is not really where you want it to be. But as long as he continues to run the football, I think he's going to have some value. And then number 13, I got Kirk Cousins. I just think that game, as I mentioned earlier, Falcons, Cardinals is going to be an absolute shootout. And he's also my sneaky and daily pick at 4,800.
Yeah. So going back to Lamar Jackson, I just don't think Lamar's played well.
Oh, no, he hasn't.
And he's going against a pretty good defense in New England. And so, I mean, are we going to say, oh, well, look what Josh Allen did to New England's defense last week? Well, that's Josh Allen. And Lamar Jackson just has not been good. His last 5 fantasy matchups, he's only cracked over 15. He's only cracked in the 20s once, and that was against Pittsburgh. He's, against going back to week 9, 25 points against Miami, but against Minnesota, 16 points, against Cleveland, 6 points, New York Jets, 7 points, Cincinnati, 7 points. Last week against Cincinnati, another only 15 points. So, Lamar just hasn't been good this year. And I don't know if that's just the offense. I don't know if it's if he's he's not seeing the field well, but he's just not been reliable. And so he's definitely not in my top 10, but I still got him in the top 13. I'll say that. I got Jalen Hurts, Drake May right out the bat. They got great matchups. Drake May has been, he's going to get MVP votes this season. Matthew Stafford is pretty much running away with that thing. I think there's still if Josh Allen continues to play the way he's playing, I think he can get himself back in the conversation. But I think Matthew Stafford is going to lock up the MVP this weekend. Matthew Stafford, if he just balls out against Seattle, he's definitely locking it up this week. Joe Burrow, I'm high on Joe. I'm high on Joe Burrow because he's Joe Burrow, but I don't know how interested he is in playing anymore. Either long term or just this season. I just think Joe Burrow is kind of checked out. And brother, you could have stayed just kind of on the sidelines rehabbing and letting Joe Flacco kind of take the team over. But here we are. Joe Burrow is at number 3. Hopefully he can, do some things this week.
That's a solid matchup against the Miami Dolphins. We saw what that offense, the defense looked like last weekend against those.
Last week against Baltimore, 7 points. Depending on what league you're in, that was, and 7 points, and you get chewed out by your offensive lineman on the sideline. It just wasn't a good look for Joe Burrow last week against Baltimore. Number 4, Josh Allen. Yes, like David said, he's playing on the MVP level. That comeback win against New England was absolutely sensational. And he's just been on another level. And I think he's got a little bit more of a pep in his step. Oh, he'll have a little bit more of a pep in his step now that he knows that the boogeyman is not there in the playoffs anymore to stop him. And I think Josh Allen he's going to take it to another worldly level in the playoffs. I think Josh Allen, he cruises this week, possibly next week. They sit him out the last week if they lock in the playoff spot, and he just goes all the way to the promised land, in my opinion, this year. Number 5, Justin Herbert. Ooh, I got him in the top 5. You got him at number 6, but how healthy is Justin Herbert? He looks
terrible.
He looked like he was being held together with Gorilla Glue and duct tape on that football field. I am very concerned with Justin Herbert's health, but he's still Justin Herbert, and they're going against I believe the Dallas Cowboys. So anytime you're going against the Dallas Cowboys, you got a great chance at putting up some numbers. At number 6, Matthew Stafford, I think he's going to have a sensation. Devontae Adams, but Puka Nacua is going to get a whole bunch of targets. And they're going to run 13 personnel, run the football all day. Who am I to say? They're going to run the football, and then they're going to throw it to those tight ends. They're going to throw it to Tutu Atwell deep, and they're going to throw it to Puka Nacua about 15 times. And he's going to catch probably 85% of those balls. So, yeah. Number 7, Brock Purdy. 8, Dak Prescott. 9, CJ Stroud. CJ going up against the Las Vegas. Going against the Raiders, and that's a great matchup for him. I don't know how. I think Woody Marks is good, so that's going to be a big help.
Woody Marks should play, yes.
Yeah, he should play. So that's going to be a big help.
He was healthy enough probably to return, but they were up by so much they didn't need him to play.
Yeah, right. So yeah, CJ Stroud looking great, especially with that defense backing him up. And then at number 10, I got Jordan Love going against the Chicago Bears. He'll have a lot of opportunities. I honestly think not having Rome, not having Luther Burden is going to be a burden for the Chicago Bears. One thing they're going to have to do. The one thing they're going to have to do is run the football to keep Jordan Love and the offense off the field, because the reason why I got him as a top 10, because I think he's just going to have a lot of opportunities, because I don't believe that the Bears are going to sustain a lot of drives, because they're going to become a little bit one-dimensional. They're going to run the football. They're going to try and run the football a lot to supplement the fact that they have a lack of weapons in the passing game. If they don't get those 2 tight ends rolling, and the Packers end up getting locking up DJ Moore or kind of bracketing them. I mean, I don't really have a lot of faith in Olamide Zaccheaus as a number 2 guy on that in the wide receiver room. So, I think Jordan Love will have ample opportunity to kind of put up some points against the Chicago Bears this week. And then I'm outside looking in. I got Caleb Williams just because no Micah Parsons, bro. Like, come on. He doesn't make the Packers defense is not scary anymore. Without Micah Parsons, they're average. And I think we saw a little something out of that second half where, and I loved what I saw last week with Caleb Williams. Besides that crazy throw across the body, don't ever do that. I'm pretty sure you're holding your breath on that throw. I thought it was almost pick 2. I was like, what is he doing? He dropped it in there, but Caleb Williams has been looking, he looked sensational against the Browns, even though I know it was the Browns, especially in the cold. I think he loves to play at home. Everybody does. So I like Caleb Williams as like fringe top 10.
It's gonna be an absolute heat wave in Chicago this weekend. It's gonna be like 40 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be way better than what it was last week. And then at number 2, the number 12, Lamar Jackson. He's still Lamar, but he has not been good for the last 2 months, really pretty much all year. And then at number 3, I got Baker Mayfield, which I think is going to be a shootout of a game between Tampa Bay and Carolina. They play each other 2 out of 3 weeks for the NFC South title. So really big game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw what Mike Evans added to Baker Mayfield. I think he kind of hurt that collarbone a little bit in that last game. He landed awkwardly on that. But, I mean, they're getting healthier, by the week. And Tampa Bay is scary when they're healthy. I mean, I felt like in that past, Sunday night, where against Atlanta, where I think they kind of, they weren't aggressive enough, which is why they lost the game in the last 3 minutes. But it wasn't because they weren't able to move the football down the field. And I think they'll be able to do that against Carolina. And then my cheap option in FanDuel at 6,500 is J.J. McCarthy. I love what I saw out of JJ last week. If they can, continue to get him out the pocket, run the football, just get it to Justin Jefferson, bro. That's all you need to know. I mean, dude, he would have had an even better. I mean, I think on that drive where Justin just dropped that pass, I think he might have ran it in on that same drive, if I'm not mistaken, on the bootleg. So, but I mean, just throw it to Justin Jefferson, bro. It's not that hard. Just give it to him.
From the quarterbacks, let's talk about them running backs. Let you go first, dear boys.
Yeah, and so at number 1, Devon Achane and Bijan Robinson is at number 2. Both got great matchups. And you know what? Even if they don't have great matchups, there's a handful of guys in the NFL that they're just kind of matchup proof. Those 2 guys are it. Devon Achane, before last week, I mean, the Miami Dolphins were running the ball between him, Jalen Wright, and Ali Gordon. They ran the ball, for 4 games in a row, like over 200 yards a game. Devon Achane was one of those guys that, I mean, even against Pittsburgh, even like in kind of garbage time, kind of coming back, he catches balls. I mean, he had like, 60, 70 yards receiving against Pittsburgh or close to it, along with some running. He was running the football pretty well in the first half. I expect him to have a nice a big game against Cincinnati, who I think that team is pretty much checked out. Number 2, Bijan Robinson, like I said, he's another one. But the matchup against Arizona, I expect him to have big numbers as well, catching the football, running the football. He's probably the most elusive back in the NFL. And number 3, Saquon Barkley with a big matchup against Washington. I like that matchup. I think he's going to put up some really good, really high numbers against them. At number 4, Christian McCaffrey. Like I said, matchup proof, right? Going up against the stingy Indianapolis Colts defense. And Indianapolis, they are going to be super fired up this at home, and they're on desperation, right? Yeah. They need to win this ball game against San Francisco, so I expect them to try and bottle up Christian McCaffrey, which pretty much puts him. But trying to bottle him up is
we were previewing this show yesterday. Do you know the last time the San Francisco 49ers beat the Indianapolis Colts? What year it was?
Oh, I do not know. Enlighten me.
2001.
What? Yeah. Are you serious? 24 years?
Yeah, they have lost.
Holy smokes.
I think they've lost 5 or 6 matchups in a row. And the last time that the San Francisco 49ers beat the Indianapolis Colts, the RCA Dome was still where the Colts called home.
Well, that makes sense because Peyton Manning was that was Peyton Manning's prime. It makes sense. And you got to think about the San Francisco 49ers quarterbacks like Jeff Garcia.
Jeff Garcia is the last one. He's the last one to beat the Indianapolis Colts.
His last one, yeah. So
anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Anyways, yeah, and then number 5, Jonathan Taylor in that same matchup. And then number 6, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of high on Travion Henderson from New England. Yeah. Man, that kid is that run that he had against Buffalo was amazing. And he's got that firecracker, that lightning in a bottle kind of playmaking ability. He's just a touchdown machine. So I like Travion Henderson at number 6. And if we were to look at his stats in terms of touchdowns in the last few weeks, rushing touchdowns, he's got 6 rushing touchdowns in the last 6 weeks. That goes for at least 6 touchdowns.
On top of that, he's got rushing touchdowns where he's taking it to the house from the distance. So he's got 2 rushing touchdowns in week 10, 2 rushing touchdowns in week 11, and 2 rushing touchdowns last week. If you combine the last 6 weeks together, that's a touchdown a game on average. So I expect him against Baltimore to get some pay dirt. And then at number 7, Jahmyr Gibbs. Hopefully he bounces back against Pittsburgh. They're another stingy defense. But they're going to need him if they're going to be successful. And especially in the second half, I felt like they just weren't able to get that running game going at all. At number 8, Travis Etienne. Really impressive. A quiet man. Nobody's really talking about Travis Etienne, but he's having an impressive season this year. Real quiet, impressive season. The Jacksonville Jaguars as a whole, quiet, impressive season. Nobody's talking about them as a championship contender. They're virtually, I don't think how many teams beaten them at home this year? I don't think anybody. And they're on the road this week, by the way, but they get a home game. I'm like, dude, they're winning. You know what I mean? And so Travis Etienne has been great either on the road or at home, but yeah, that team has been really good this season. Number 9, James Cook, and then round on my top 10 is Josh Jacobs. He caught that 1 passing touchdown last week. That was amazing. I think he had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown last week. And then at number 11, I got Bucky Irvin. Woody Marks, like David said, he probably could have came back last week. He wasn't all that banged. He was a little banged up, but he'll come back this week strong in a good matchup. Then number 3, the only games the Jacksonville Jaguars have lost at home this season were against the Seattle Seahawks and the Rams. So
that's crazy.
They've won. They've quietly won 5 in a row and 6 out of the last 7.
They're a really good football team.
I will say they haven't exactly beat the who's who when it comes to this last win streak. They beat down the Chargers, they beat the Cardinals and the Titans and the Jets, and then they beat the Colts on the game where Daniel Jones got hurt. So
and Travis Etienne has been solid. You look at him from week 9 on,
he's been the 10th highest running back in fantasy this season. So
week 9 on, he's been amazing. 2 back-to-back 20-point performances. New York, albeit it's against the Jets, and then Indy's a decent squad, but he's been tearing it up this year. And then Omarion Hampton going up against Dallas. Even though I know adding Quentin Williams, their defensive front has run defense has gotten a little bit better. And then cheap option on FanDuel, 5,800, Kenneth Gainwell, who was doing some work for Pittsburgh last week. And then at 5,100, Sean Tucker, he's the goal line back there in Tampa. They get anywhere in the red zone or in the goal line, it's going to Sean Tucker. I think he'll have a couple touchdowns this week at 5,100.
Yeah, we'll see about the Sean Tucker thing. Bucky Irving, I think, is still going to be the guy there.
Well, in the red zone, though, David. In the red zone, have you seen? Have you watched?
I know they've been using Sean Tucker, but I think Bucky Irving is going to get the touchdown this week. That's just a good call.
Yeah, that's fine.
From your running backs to mine, number one is Christian McCaffrey. His usage rate is still absurd for Christian McCaffrey and the San Francisco 49ers. He's my number one. Two, Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, I think he bounces back this week after a pretty just ho-hum performance last week against the Los Angeles Rams. James Cook the third. I think the Buffalo Bills understand if they're going to want to do big things in the playoffs, they're going to have to be James Cook is going to have to be the engine that makes this offense go and not Josh Allen. You can't expect him to be Superman all the time. 4, 5, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane. Yeah, probably a little bit too low on both those guys, but I think Bijan Robinson, I think Devon Achane have good matchups. So, start them with confidence. 6, Travis month or so. He's really been outstanding all season. But now that Basil Tootin is not going to play in this game with that hand injury, I think that opens up for Travis Etienne to have even more touches in this offense on top of whatever he was already getting. Number 7, Saquon Barkley. This is a game where I expect the Eagles to be up early. I think we're going to see a lot of whoever that backup is. His name is totally escaping me right now, but I think Saquon Barkley is still going to get
Tyler. Oh, yeah, you said
the backup.
Tank?
No. Oh, Tank Bigsby. Yes, thank you.
Tank Bigsby? Yeah.
Yeah. So if Saquon Barkley should have I think he breaks one in this game. I think he has a long touchdown in this game as well. And then Woody Marks for the Houston Texans. That's a good matchup going against the Las Vegas Raiders. Look for him to get into the end zone.
You also have Will Shipley as well. My bad, too, in Philly. Yeah.
Number 9, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, a little bit lower on Jonathan Taylor than you are, and then consensus. That San Francisco 49ers defense is tough. He wasn't that good last week against Seattle. Going up against another tough defense. And I think if you're the Colts, I think if you're a defense, you're going to load up the box and force Phillip Rivers to see if he can beat you with his arm. I think the jury's still out if he can still do that. He was fine in that game against Seattle, but
he doesn't have the arm strength anymore, David.
No,
he doesn't
for
have
sure.
it.
No, for sure.
He doesn't have the arm strength. That's why he was only averaging like 5-6 yards a throw.
Yeah.
A completion. Yeah.
And then number 10, I got Chase Brown in that same game as Devon Achane. I think that's going to be a shootout between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Miami Dolphins. Chase Brown should have a good game there. Then my outside looking, I got Tyron Tracy Jr. And man, Tyron Tracy Jr. I was at work on Sunday, and I made the last second decision to bench Christian Watson and start Tyron Tracy against AJ. And because of that decision, I beat him. If I had left Christian Watson in my lineup, AJ would be moving on, and he would have bounced me out of the playoffs. But Tyron Tracy Jr. started him in AJ's league, moving on into the playoffs because of Tyron Tracy. I've been high on him all freaking season. It's good to see him get 2 touchdowns. He's a really good running back. He's a really good pass catching running back. Tyron Tracy, I think, is a good football player.
Can I say something, David?
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, just say, look, you winning a playoff game in that league is a very big accomplishment for fantasy players. Let me tell you something, guys. That league is very difficult to win in because of 14 guys, 14 teams. Yeah. And it's very scarce when you have to really hit the waiver wire. You have to really know your fantasy football to win a championship in that league. That is a highly difficult league to win in. And for you to win a playoff game matchup against AJ, who's a pretty good, knowledgeable fantasy football player, that's an accomplishment in your fantasy football career. Just saying.
Thank you. Yeah. Because I've been in that league. I've been in that league for 3 years. And the first season I was in it, I had the best record in the league, and I didn't sniff a playoff win. I think I got spanked by, I don't remember who it was.
Yeah.
That was not a good matchup. And then I was terrible last season. So it's good to bounce back there. And then Travion Henderson, number 2 there. I mean, he just seems to break one every single week. I think you're going to rely on Travion Henderson. If you got him, you probably drafted him pretty late. He's been one of your fantasy MVPs. And then Bucky Irving, I think they're going to increase his usage rate every single week that he gets healthier. I think Tampa Bay also knows that Bucky Irving is kind of going to be the key there for that offense to really get going. And then my sneaky and daily, I got Alvin Kamara at 5,500. Got an asterisk on him right there. If he doesn't play, obviously don't start him. But if they activate him off the IR and they're going to play him, I mean, I would roll the dice on Alvin Kamara. And then Tajay Spears has been pretty solid for the running back position for the Tennessee Titans. Even though Tony Pollard is getting all the touchdowns, Tajay Spears is doing a decent job getting you some yards there at 4,900. And then from our running backs, let's talk about them wide receivers. My number 1 is Jamar Chase, because I don't think there's anybody on the Miami Dolphins that can check him. I think that game's going to be a shootout. Same thing I feel about CeeDee Lamb and the Los Angeles Chargers. And then in the same game playing tomorrow night, I got Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba at 3 and 4. I just think that those defenses are tough. And I'm a little bit lower on both of them. I can kind of see that game between Seattle and the LA tomorrow night being kind of a low scoring affair. I mean, we could see like 20 points is the one. I mean, the game where they played the first time, it wasn't a high scoring game at all. And I think we're going to see a very similar outcome tomorrow night. And then number 5, Nico Collins. I probably should have said this earlier. Just start all your Texans against the Las Vegas Raiders this weekend. The Las Vegas Raiders are done. They're a lost season. I think Pete Carroll's probably going to get fired when the season is over. Start all your Texans this weekend. 6, A.J. Brown. He's had 4 games in a row, pretty solid production going up against a pretty easy matchup there in the Commanders. Jalen Waddle, number 7. Didn't play particularly well against the Steelers. Look for him to bounce back against a bad defense in Cincinnati. 8, Chris Olave, who's quietly having a really nice fantasy season. Whether the quarterback be Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shook, he's been really solid. And Amon-Ra St. Brown all the way there at number 9. It's one of those things where I think they're going to want to get the running game going. And it's not the best matchup in the world for Detroit as they go up against, sorry, I just lost it. I'm trying to remember where they're playing now. Sorry, hold on. Detroit. Going up against the Steelers. Joey Porter Jr., I think he's probably going to try to check Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God, for majority of the game. So a little bit lower on the – and I do think it's possible TJ Watt also returns for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this matchup. I'd just be – you obviously if you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're not benching him for anybody else. But I would be cautious about his value this weekend. And then number 10, I got Michael Wilson, who's just been on an absolute tear. He didn't have a great game last weekend, but nobody did in that offense. But he's been on an absolute tear ever since Maserati Marv has been out of the lineup. I mean, 10-plus catches a week for Michael Wilson. He's been awesome for the Arizona Cardinals. And then outside looking in, I got your guy, Wan'Dale Robinson, at number 1 there. DK Metcalf, and then Mike Evans going up against the Carolina Panthers. I think that's going to be a good game for them here. And then my sneaky and daily is Jalen McMillan. If you remember last season, down the stretch last season, Jalen McMillan may have won many people their fantasy championships because he was incredible for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He finally came back from that neck injury. He got a couple passes in that game against the Atlanta Falcons. He has more time now to practice, get their rapport with Baker Mayfield after that injury. I think he's due for a big, big game against the Carolina Panthers. Jalen McMillan, keep an eye on his status for this weekend. And then MVS, 3,000 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, the rapport is there with Aaron Rodgers, given their time back in Green Bay. And Detroit, the secondary there is not exactly a stout unit. 3,000 for MVS, I think is pretty good value over there on DraftKings.
Absolutely, man. I mean, look, man, I think MVS, you said MVS, right? Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Yeah, I think him being in Pittsburgh, I mean, that's you get Aaron Rodgers. That's where you saw that comfortability factor, kind of adding him, adding Adam Thielen. It's like the old man brigade there, coming along in Pittsburgh there. But Aaron Rodgers, he loves his veterans. Loves to only play with the veteran guys. Doesn't really like the younger guys as much. And so you start to see him that comfortability factor. And you saw him pick Miami apart, which isn't that big of a feat. But anyways, number one, Puka Nacua, number two, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Both of those guys going up against each other. Both of those guys, Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of took a little bit of I was thankful he didn't go crazy last week. I was playing against him, and I was like, please don't go off. Please don't go off. And he had a modest performance last
113
week.
yards. He just didn't get into the end zone.
Yeah, he just didn't get into the end zone. Yeah, that's all I care. I was like, a modest performance is meaning that he doesn't score multiple touchdowns. Yes.
I also think that he is like he's not. I don't think he's like, you'd have to like have 140 yards a week now to break that record. It's gonna be tough.
He's not breaking that record. I don't think so. It's gonna be tough. And then number 3, CD Lamb. Going up against the Los Angeles Chargers, he is questionable. He's got a little bit of an illness. He should play though. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had a fantastic fantasy football game. Probably, most likely, maybe in that top 5 list when we talk about it at the end of the show. Maybe. Okay. Maybe. And then at number 5, we got Michael Wilson, who's been on an absolute tear of lately. 26 points these last 4 out of 5 weeks. He's been a really good football player for the Arizona Cardinals. Last week, only 11 points. The week before, 26 fantasy points against LA. I think he's going to have,
because his receptions are just absurd. He just eats in PPR leagues. He's been incredible.
3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I expect him to fully have a really good game against Atlanta. So expect that to happen. And then at number 6, I have number 6. I got Jamar Chase. Hopefully, they can do some things in that matchup. Joe Burrow, like I said, I brought it up. They're playing in Miami. They should have a great game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. But I don't know how interested Joe Burrow is at football right now. So let's see. Number 7, Nico Collins. He's really finishing the year strong. At number 8, Mike Evans. Welcome back, Mike Evans, in a big way. Mike Evans, man, he had a really amazing fantasy performance with 132 yards. Just didn't get a touchdown. Had 13 fantasy points against Atlanta.
But in PPR, he had 19.2 fantasy.
In PPR, had 19 points. Yeah, that's standard league. And so against Carolina, I think he's gonna have a monstrous game. Continue to go. They got to finish the season strong, man. They got to win against Atlanta both games to be able to win that NFC South title. So I think they're both deadlocked, right?
They have absolutely the same exact record. So it's going to really come down to these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, if they split, David, what's the tiebreaker? Did you guys go over that yesterday?
I don't know what we didn't. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. But anyways, Mike Evans, doesn't matter here. Mike Evans is going to have a big game against Carolina. And then at number 9, I got A.J. Brown, who's coming on strong as well. He's had the last 3 weeks, David, he's been pretty damn good for Philadelphia. Yeah. He can't do no complaining. Actually, the last 4 weeks, he's been pretty damn good. So for a month, he can't complain. He's been, they got off the snide last week. He's been getting the football. So he can't complain. He can't be down on the bench on the sideline. But A.J. Brown is hell of a matchup against Washington. And then at number 10, I got DK Metcalf, who that touchdown play was just absolutely insane. Where he just ragdoll guys on the way into the end zone. DK Metcalf, going up against Detroit, whose secondary has just not been great. Defense hasn't been good at all, in my opinion. They've gotten weaker as the season has gone along. And then my outside looking in, I got Wan'Dale Robinson, who's just, I think honestly, I'll say this: Wan'Dale Robinson is getting a lot of targets, and Jackson Dart is finding them, and he's the number 1 target for Jackson Dart, and going up against Minnesota. I think that should be a solid matchup for him.
Circling back, so real quick to Tampa Bay, Carolina. So if they were to split, they would be tied in their division. So we'll go to conference record, which Tampa Bay, so they were split. Tampa Bay would be 6-6 in the conference. Carolina would be 6-5. Plus they have a matchup with Seattle in between. And if let's say they were to win that one, they would be 6-6. I think, 6-6. So their record, their conference record, and their division record would be exactly the same. I don't know what the tiebreaker would be after that point.
That's incredible.
Like it would go to it would go to common opponent, I think, and they would go to record off that. But I don't know what their common opponents are. So
that would be an interesting scenario right there. That would be an interesting scenario. And then George Pickens, I'm outside looking in, and Cortland Sutton, who had over 100 yards last week against Green Bay and a touchdown. I think he had 1 or 2 touchdowns last week. David, I can't remember. But anyways, Cortland Sutton, he had 1 touchdown, 113 yards against Green Bay. And then my sneaky options in FanDuel are at 5,800, David Sills, who is the wide receiver in Atlanta, who dropped a freaking wide open pass against Tampa Bay. I mean, dude, there was nobody for 20 yards of David Sills. But as long as, Kyle Pitts is going to be the biggest beneficiary. Obviously, Bijan Robinson with no Drake London. This is where I'm alluding to. No Drake London. Drake London could absolutely be the best slot wide receiver in the NFL if he wanted to. Bijan Robinson could absolutely be the number 1 slot wide receiver in the NFL if he absolutely wanted to. That's how good of a wide receiver that guy is. But David Sills should be a beneficiary, especially in the wide receiver room. Kirk Cousins was looking to him last week. And then 4,900, Isaiah Bond. If you're trying to hit lightning in the bottle, he caught those 2 big long passes against Chicago. It's, if you're looking for something over the top, and
he seems to have a rapport on the deep game for Isaiah Bond. Him and Shedeur Sanders seem to have a pretty good rapport. So
and he looked for him the week before too. They just didn't connect. Yeah. So we'll see.
And he caught a long pass from him his first start too. So I think there's definitely chemistry between those 2 guys.
Something there. There's something there for sure.
Moving on from the wide receivers, let's talk about them bulkier pass catchers, tight ends. Go ahead.
Tight end number 1 this week is Trey McBride. And that's a good matchup this week with Arizona. This week
you could legitimately make the argument that Trey McBride is legitimately matchup proof. He went up against the best defense in the NFL, and he had himself a day. He had 12 catches, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's matchup proof. No matter what the matchup is coming up against Trey McBride, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals either. The dude's going to be clutch.
Yeah, well, when you look at all his matchups all year round, he's all green. And you know what green means? He's in the money, baby. Because he's just money. In fantasy matches, he's hit every single he's always hit 10 points in the PPR league, like almost every week, I think. And I think like he's almost hit majority of his projections or exceeded them this year. So Trey McBride is absolutely
Trey McBride, not just of tight ends. He's a top 10 player in fantasy this season.
It's crazy.
And I didn't.
And that's with Jacoby Brissett.
I didn't realize that Patrick Mahomes was also in the top 10, which is pretty surprising.
That's surprising. Well, all those rushing yards that he had like a bajillion. He had
422 rushing yards to go with 5 touchdowns for
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and then George Kittle at number 2, who's looking healthy in that offense. They're getting them right back, and I think going against Indianapolis, I think that's a good matchup for him. Kyle Pitts, man, who had an amazing game, and if we're going to talk about top 5 guys, he's probably number 1 on that list that will be coming up when we talk about it at the end of the show. Kyle Pitts, top 3 title, no Drake London. Kirk Cousins was just looking for him. He almost had 100 yards, I think, in the first half of that game. And then number 4, Dallas Goedert, who had back-to-back really good weeks. I actually had him on the bench this week. It's crazy? We got Brock Bowers and Dallas Goedert, both in my top 5. And guess what? I have the luxury of having both of them on a number 1 fantasy team in a league in my leagues in the playoffs that I'm still in. So I'm starting both of them. I sat Dallas Goedert for Wan'Dale Robinson. It was only like a 7 or 8 point difference. Still could have been a really big difference if it was a tight game, but I'm starting Dallas Goedert against Washington. He's a must start this week. At number 6, Harold Fannin. Dude, Steve, Look, Ray Charles could be in the building, and he knows Shedeur Sanders is throwing it to Harold Fanning. That's how much he's targeted with Shedeur Sanders in the last 3 weeks. He is an absolute must start at this point in the season. I mean, he is getting target after target after target.
I don't expect David Njoku to return in this game or again this season potentially.
Yeah, so Harold Fanning is an absolute must start down the stretch. He's one of those guys that, like, David, you picked him up late in the waiver wire, late in the season, and now you're starting him in the playoffs. If you are in the playoffs, he's getting that much target share. And then number 7, Darren Waller, the Wall, 2 touchdowns this past game.
Both of them are garbage time, but they still count.
They still count. Hey, we ain't discriminating, man. They still count. Fantasy is fantasy, bro. We don't care if they lose by 40 to 14. As long as our guys score 2 touchdowns, we good. You know, Tyler Warren, he takes a bit of a dip, you know, with Phillip Rivers obviously at the helm. You know, but Phillip Rivers, I will say this, over the course of his career.
You would think that, like, with Phillip Rivers and the lack of his arm strength, that, like, Tyler Warren should be his number 1 passing option on that offense, but he just wasn't in week 1.
Well, give him some time.
Yeah,
I would say give him some time. I think another week of extra week of practice does good in the offense for Phillip Rivers. So I think Tyler Warren will see an uptick this week.
I mean, he's still benefiting by the fact that he's still 82% of the snaps in that offense. Yeah. So.
And Tyler, I mean, Phillip Rivers over the course of his career has always thrown it to his tight ends. I mean, he put a gold jacket on the tight end in LA and San Diego, right? And Antonio Gates. So anyways, and then number 9,
Justin San Diego. Antonio Gates never played in LA.
He didn't play in LA, so in San Diego. But he put a gold jacket on that guy. And then at number 9, Bobby Schultz's cousin, Dalton Schultz, who has been
2 touchdowns last week.
Yes, he's been pretty damn good the last. I mean, I would say this to start the season, I was getting concerned. I was like, what's going on? But like mid-season on, he's been a pretty dang good tight end in that offense. So Dalton Schultz, number 9 tight end on my rankings. And then around the top 10, I got Colston Loveland. Yeah, no Roma Dunze, no Luther Burden. So expect Colston Loveland, expect Cole Kmet to, expect them to utilize 2 tight ends with DJ Moore, Lamade Zacchaeus as well, and expect those 2 guys to have some decent amount of target shares against Green Bay. And honestly, Colston Loveland against Green Bay, what was it, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago had, over 10 fantasy points. He had a touchdown in that game. Last week he had 63 yards. If he would have had a touchdown, he would have had a bigger fantasy output. And I've talked about how good he's been, pretty much mid-season on since they've been using him more in the offense. So Colston Loveland's been absolutely amazing. And remember at one point, David, you guys, all the Bears fans were like, oh, why didn't we get Tyler Warren? Why didn't we get Tyler Warren? And you guys are probably still saying that.
Still saying that. Tyler Warren has been awesome.
You guys are probably still saying that, but you see why they got Colston Loveland. He's athletic. He's really fast, and he's really agile. He's got some moves, and he's a good blocker as well. So I like Colston Loveland's potential in that offense. And then I'm outside looking in. I got Dalton Kincaid, Kobe Parkinson, and Hunter Henry. And the only reason, man, Kobe Parkinson, red zone, yeah. But I mean, it's just like they utilize like 3 tight ends. They run the football a lot. They utilize those tight ends to like block a lot. So Kobe Parkinson, you could see him, 40 yards in.
He's had an insane amount of time. Even though he was gift wrapped at that one against Detroit, I still think it was a touchdown. The one, but he's gotten 2 touchdowns. He's had like 7 touchdowns in 5 weeks. Like he's been a touchdown machine.
A touchdown machine, yeah, exactly, in the red zone, and so it's just like. You gotta start him. You gotta start him, even though if you don't like his yardage. And for tight ends, that's all that matters is touchdowns in the red zone. And then Hunter Henry, I'm outside looking in. My last guy on the outside looking in. I like Hunter Henry this week. And then at 4,900, Greg Dulcich from Miami. He got a decent amount of targets in his last game. And then 4,800 going against his old team, Evan Ingram.
Looking for the revenge dagger.
And then I'm going to add another guy. At 4,100, if you want to take a stupid long shot and just go super cheap, and you're a cheapskate, and you're just like, I only want to get 7 or 8 points out of my tight end.
I'm listening. I'm listening about the cheapskate part. I'm listening.
The cheapskate part. Go with Connor Hayward from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I tell you this why. Because if they get in the red zone, you know who they're giving the ball to on quarterback sneaks?
Connor Hayward.
Connor Hayward. Yeah. Connor Hayward got a touchdown last week. And he's like a fullback kind of hybrid tight end-ish. And they utilize him on short yardage situations. And in the red zone, they utilize him on quarterback sneaks. So, you could see Connor Hayward get a touchdown maybe this week, possibly, hopefully, maybe. So roll the dice, I guess, if you're going to put in multiple lineups. At 4,100, you can save 700, and you can just put it on like a stud wide receiver. That's the difference from like having like George Pickens to Puka Nacua, in your starting lineup.
Connor Hayward is only he's 2,500 on DraftKings, so he's only really $100 cheaper than Darnell Washington, or $200 cheaper than Jonas Smith. So he's not really the value.
On DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he is. On FanDuel, he's super cheap. Super cheap.
Moving on from there, let's talk about my tight ends. I just realized, Travis Kelce ranked at all, which is
no, I don't.
It's very interesting.
No, I don't.
I know he hasn't been good in like 3 weeks.
It's on purpose.
That was on purpose. Yeah, Trey McBride is absolutely matchup proof. 10th best player in fantasy so far this season. Number 1 tight end, Kyle Pitts Sr. Him and Kirk Cousins just to build something there. They have good rapport. He had his monster game last weekend. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, but yeah, I think he continues to ride this momentum. Harold Fanning Jr. at number 3, and this may be a first time on this show. I'm higher on Harold Fanning Jr. than you are, which does not happen very often here at Prime Sports World. But I think ever since David Njoku went out, ever since Shedeur Sanders got the starting position, he's been thrown into Harold Fanning Jr. The target share has just been absurd. For Colby Parkinson, he's just had a bit of touchdown machine. 5 touchdowns in 7 weeks. All he does is score touchdowns. I would be rolling with Colby Parkinson if I got him. George Kittle at number 5. Going up against the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football. Number 6, Dallas Goedert. He's just been unreliable there for the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been using him in the running game as well. So, Dallas Goedert has been a really good tight end for the majority of the season. And Darren, the Waller. I know he scored both of his touchdowns in garbage time, but I still like his involvement in the offense. I don't know who's going to start at the quarterback position for the Miami Dolphins, given what Mike McDaniel said on his press conference yesterday. But I don't think it matters. Darren Waller should have some sneaky value at number 7. 8, Tyler Warren. It pains me to have Tyler Warren down this low because at most of the time this season, if you had Tyler Warren, he carried you at the tight end position. You didn't have to worry about nothing. You basically started him and forgot him. But now Tyler Warren is somebody you have to kind of consider. What are you going to do with him on fantasy? And then number 9 and number 10, I got Bobby Schultz's cousin, Dalton Schultz. And then I got Dalton Kincaid, the Dalton brothers, at 9 and 10. This Buffalo Bills offense runs better when Dalton Kincaid is active and healthy. We see the difference when he's not in the lineup compared to when he is in the lineup. It's a night and day difference for this offense for the Buffalo Bills. Dalton Kincaid is quietly number 1 pass-catching option for a very potent pass attack there in Buffalo. And then Dalton Schultz, he's just been 2 touchdowns last week. He's been really super reliable for C.J. Stroud, him and Nico Collins for this season. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, start all your Texans if you got them. And then my outside looking in, I got Travis Kelce. Yeah, this is as high as I can go. I don't know what it's going to look like with Gardner Minshew under center. I don't know what this offense is going to look like under Gardner Minshew under center. I would just be very cautious about Travis Kelce if you got him. If he's been your starting tight end this season, you're probably not playing fantasy still right now. Not to be disrespectful, but sort of disrespectful. Travis Kelce has not been good in fantasy this season. And then All Right Gatson at number 2, tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think you can utilize him with Justin Herbert. And then number 3, I got Colston Loveland. I think the Bears, with the 2 injuries to the wide receivers, they're going to do a lot of double tight end sets. Colston Loveland should have some good value there against the Green Bay Packers, especially if the Bears want to win that game. They're going to have to do something in the passing game. So Colston Loveland's the guy. And then my sneaky and daily, I got Jonnu Smith at 2,700, fresh off getting his revenge dagger against the Miami Dolphins. Decent matchup there against the Detroit Lions with the defenses all sorts of banged up. And then Josh Oliver at 2,700 was pretty quiet last week against the Dallas Cowboys. But the week before that, he had a breakout fantasy day. Coming back, a pretty good matchup for the Minnesota Vikings as they are playing. Hold on, I do not have that right now.
The
Giants.
The
Giants.
Yeah.
The Giants. I like that matchup for Josh Oliver and the Minnesota Vikings. We kind of saw what the Commanders did to this defense last week. I think we're going to see something similar this week. From the offensive side of the ball to the other side of the football, let's talk about defense. Number one, I got the Houston Texans, and I gotta be honest with you, this is not an easy week to rank defenses. I found myself kind of struggling with it a little bit. The only two defenses that I was really super high on were the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think those are really good matchups going against the Raiders and then the Commanders, respectively.
Well, the Bills too.
I mean,
what do you think about the Bills?
I mean, the Browns. I mean, I think because we saw this Buffalo Bills team give up points. I know that they were a turnover machine against the Chicago Bears, but that's just been kind of the way the Bears have played this season. I think that game's going to be higher scoring than people think. I think that's going to be a 20-25 game. Like I think that's going to be I think it's going to be high scoring. I don't necessarily love they're on here. We'll get to them, but. I think I like the Denver Broncos defense a little bit more. I think, Trevor Lawrence, I know he's been playing pretty well. But as I mentioned earlier, he hasn't really played a lot of elite defenses. So this is going to be the first real test of like the new look Jaguars, what they look like over the last couple weeks. Denver, still that stout defense, still that pass rush, still got PS2. The New Orleans Saints going up against the New York Jets and Brody Cook. Even though I don't necessarily love the Saints defense, I don't necessarily trust that offense for the New York Jets. And then the Dallas Cowboys going over against the Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. That offense just does not look the same since he got injured. Kudos for him for being able to gut it out, but the offense just hasn't been clicking since he got hurt. And then I got the 49ers. So I guess I don't even have the Bills on my outside looking. I thought I did, but I forgot. I got the San Francisco 49ers going up against old man Phillip Rivers, the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Tennessee Titans, even though I could see a scenario where the Tennessee Titans win that game, but I still think it's going to be pretty low scoring. And then I got the Rams and the Seahawks here. I kind of cheated a little bit. I couldn't really pick which one of these two teams I think is the better matchup. Right. I think both of these defenses have sneaky top 8 or so value. I think that game is going to be low scoring tomorrow because both these teams know each other so well. Rams and Seahawks tie in there at number 3. And then my sneaky and daily, I got the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Giants, and then a Brian Flores-led defense. And then I got the Titans at 2,500. Gardner Minshew has not been a good starting quarterback ever since he was in Jacksonville. He was terrible in Las Vegas last season. Him now starting for the Kansas City Chiefs with a terrible offensive line. I think it's going to be tough sledding for that offense. I think the Titans have sneaky value at 2,500.
So no Minshew mania, huh?
I don't think so. No. I mean, you saw that pick he threw at the end of the. I know he didn't have a week of practice. He probably didn't play much, but like that was a terrible decision. It was not a good throw at all.
Yeah, number one, the Texans and the Bills. I think David left the Bills out. I'm gonna give him some flowers. Texas, Bills, Eagles. I think are really locks in my opinion. I think the Bills are going. I mean, that Cleveland Browns offense. I mean, unless they're gonna run the football with Quinshon Judkins, if they can't get the running game going, I mean, that offensive line. They've had like 9 or 10 different starting offensive line combinations. They are just banged up across the front. They don't give Shador any type of time to throw the football. I mean, he's literally getting it and he's getting hit. If they're not running the football and getting those quick short throws going, it could be a long day against Buffalo. But they got to play it right. But I like Buffalo to turn Shador over at least a couple times. And not because Shador is not like bad or anything, but we saw like Jerry Jeudy, like He put it in the breast basket, and Jerry Jeudy just let Jalen Johnson rip it out. And then, obviously the one other pick he threw was just a great individual effort by the linebacker. And also, Shadour's still learning, right? He's still learning how to process defense. You saw what the Chicago Bears did, and David brought it up. Chicago Bears are like one of the league. I think they lead the league in turnovers, and turnover differential. So and so like they really disguise a lot of things well. And one thing that Shadour has to kind of process is like learning the zone coverages and learning how guys are disguising and playing him. So Chicago did a great at that, and I think the Buffalo Bills will kind of mimic that a little bit. And then I got the Chiefs this week going up against Tennessee. One thing I will say, man, the Chiefs are still a really good defense, right? Steve Spagnuolo, that defense is really good still. The offense isn't going to be worth a damn, but the defense is going to put up some points, I think, this week.
Yeah, so, that might be the most uninteresting football game to watch on TV, like this weekend.
Oh yeah, the Kansas City's out the playoffs, and
Titans Chiefs is not going to be must-see television for sure.
Yeah, Kansas City's out the playoffs, and we'll see how those guys come up to play. I mean, they're still professionals at the end of the day. And then I talked about the Eagles. Good matchup against the Washington Commanders. I think Marcus Mariota will probably be playing
100%. Jay Daniels has been shut down for the remainder of the season, so it will be Marcus Mariota show for the final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah. Give me the Eagles. Give me the Eagles the top 4. And then I like the Rams as a top 5 defense. I honestly, in my opinion, I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to have a tough go against the LA Rams this week.
Charles Cross has been ruled out as of today. He's the starting left tackle or right tackle, one of the two. So they will not have their best offensive lineman on the field for this game. A must-win game for Seattle.
Yeah, so I think LA is going to get after it, against the Seattle Seahawks, and I mean that bodes well, for the pass rushers on the Rams, right? Not having their best left tackle on the other side, right? And then my outside looking in, I got the New Orleans Saints, great matchup against the New York Jets. Honestly, man, the Saints have, even though they're a pretty bad football team overall, they're going against a rookie quarterback in Brady Cook, who's, really wet behind the ears. I know they only put up 4 fantasy points, 3 and 6 against Miami, but 11 against Atlanta in week 12, 12 against Carolina in week 10 before the bye. So this defense can do some things. And then against the other New York team early on in the season, 18 fantasy points. So I like them against New York, and they just haven't been good offensively, regardless of who's in front of them. And then I like the Broncos this week as well. I think you're spot on with that assessment. And then I like the Vikings. The Broncos going against Jacksonville at home. I like that matchup a lot. And then the Minnesota Vikings this week have a decent matchup against the Giants. So and they showed a little something against Dallas. High octane offense. That defense was able to play a pretty stout defense. So I like them against Jacksonville, New York. And then my cheap option in FanDuel is the Saints at 3,500. Super cheap. One of the cheapest defenses that you're gonna get in FanDuel on FanDuel. I would go and I'm locking them in. If I'm putting a lineup together, I'm locking the Saints in. They're one of the top 3 cheapest defenses, top 4 cheapest, the bottom 4 cheapest defenses on FanDuel. You have to play them against the New York Jets. It's a must. I'm surprised they're at 3,500. I am surprised. On a lot of fantasy pundits rankings, the Saints are in the top 5 defense this week. I mean, I picked up the Saints. David, I picked up the Saints in a fantasy football matchup, and I'm starting
on DraftKings. The Saints are the 3rd most expensive defense.
That is incredible. Incredible. How is
3,400 for the Saints, which is really expensive on DraftKings.
That's crazy. So yeah, FanDuel, I'm riding with the Saints. I mean, it sounds like you'll have a better time at maybe getting a super good lineup this week. If you go and go play FanDuel this week, you get the Saints and you maybe get a cheaper tight end. So roll with that as you may.
Before we get up out of here, as we give you our fantasy football rankings for week number 16, let's talk about week number 15 a little bit more. Can you name the number 1 scorer in fantasy for week number 16?
Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts was the number one scorer in fantasy at the tight end position. In fact, he had the third highest scoring game for a tight end across any season of any time. Third highest of all time for Kyle Pitts at 45.6 fantasy points. Do you know who the other four guys were in the top five?
Amon-Ra St. Brown has to be one of them.
Amon-Ra St. Brown comes in at number 3 with 41.4 fantasy points, 13 catches, 164 yards, and 2 tutties.
Okay. At number 3, let me look at my list of players.
Amon-Ra St. Brown was number 3.
Okay, he was number 3. Okay, so at number 2, I'm gonna go with is it maybe it's probably who was another guy that had 2 touchdowns? Like that, is Dallas Goedert in there?
Dallas Goedert is number 15.
No, 15. Okay. All right. Let me
points.
All right, let me go Puka Nacua.
Puka Nacua finds himself on the outside looking in at 27.9 fantasy points. Good for number 10, I think. 10.
Not even I'm like, let me say Josh Allen. No, not Josh Allen. About Drake May.
Drake May was number. It's not Drake May. He was number.
Maybe Travion Henderson.
Travion Henderson at number 6.
Oh my
at
gosh,
30.1 fantasy points.
I'm dying here.
I don't know where Drake May is actually.
Man. What about Bijan Robinson?
No, Bijan Robinson number 7. 29.5 fantasy points.
Okay, I give up.
In the top 5, there's a quarterback, there's a tight end, and there are 2 running backs.
Quarterback, tight end, and 2 running backs. Okay, you said quarterback. Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford is not the answer. He is
Damn.
not in the top 10.
Jared Goff? Jared Goff?
Also not Jared Goff.
God, bro. I would have thought because that was a high scoring game. Shitskis.
The number 2 is Sunshine himself, Trevor Lawrence. With 44.3 fantasy points. He threw for 5 touchdowns, and he rushed for another. Travis Etienne, who you just mentioned, was number 4 with 31.5 fantasy points. He had 3 receiving touchdowns in this game. And then can you name number 3 and number 5? It's a tight end.
Well, you said number 3 was Amon-Ra, right?
Yeah. My bad. Yeah.
You said number 3 was Amon-Ra. Number 1 was Kyle Pitts, and then you said the
2 was
guy,
Trevor
right?
Lawrence. 2 was Trevor Lawrence. So you need the 4th guy. My bad. It's a tight end.
The 4th guy, is it? It's not. It's Darren Waller.
It is not Darren Waller.
No, not Darren Waller. Is
Trey
it McBride?
Tom McBride. 12 catches for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Good for 37.4 fantasy points. And my bad, I thought James Cook was in the top 5. He's number 6, actually. James Cook had 31.1 fantasy points with 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown in that game. But talking about week number 16, who will be the number 1 scorer in fantasy when it's all said and done?
Number 1 scorer in fantasy. I'm going to go with, let me go Devon Achane against Cincinnati this week.
I'm going to go Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington Commanders. I think he gets a couple rushing touchdowns. I think he throws for a couple touchdowns. I think he has a monster game against his division rival in the Washington Commanders. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you've been riding with us all of fantasy football season as we're just 3 weeks left. And then we'll kind of talk about some off-season fantasy football stuff with our awards show and all that good stuff. But yeah, I've been David Huffman right there, Izzy Rivera. And Izzy, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. And I know I was talking a lot of smack to these guys about their favorite wrestler. So I'll give them an ode.
Let's go.
To John Cena. Good luck in retirement, buddy. I know you'll make a lot of movies. John Cena, you can't see me, baby.
100%. So, yeah, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We'll be back here next week breaking down week number 16, and then we're going to give you our rankings for week number 17. You don't want to miss any of that content. See you all later. Peace out, brother.
Peace out, guys.